Welcome to Management 2110's Chapter 6, the teaching lecture, based on the readings from the textbook Management, 14th edition, by Robbins and Coulter. So we're going to get started. And first we're going to cover the learning objectives for Chapter 15. We are going to identify the focus and goals of individual behavior within organizations. Then we're going to explain the role that attitudes play in job performance. We're going to describe different personality theories, and we're going to know how to be more self-aware. Then we're going to describe perception and factors that influence it. And we're also going to discuss learning theories and their relevance in shaping behavior. And we're going to develop your skill at shaping behavior. So managers need good people skills. The material in this and the next 3 chapters draws heavily on the field of study that's known as organizational behavior, or OP for short. Although it's concerned with the subject of behavior, that is, the actions of people, but organizational behavior is the study of the actions of people at work. So here we have behavior is the actions of people. Organizational behavior is the study of the actions of people at work. And one of the challenges in understanding organizational behavior is that it addresses issues that aren't obvious, like an iceberg. Organizational behavior has a small, visible dimension and a much larger hidden portion. See Exhibit 15-1 here. Your visible aspects are your strategies, your objectives, your policies and procedures, structure, technology, formal authority, chain of command, all the things that are visible and transparent at the surface. Your hidden aspects are the attitudes, the perceptions, the group norms, informal interactions, and interpersonal and intergroup conflicts. Now, these are the things that can have a significant impact on the things that are at the surface or above the surface. So, it's very important to know those hidden aspects. The organizational behavior focuses on 3 major areas. First, organizational behavior looks at individual behavior based predominantly on contributions from psychologists. This area includes topics such as attitudes, personality, perception, learning, and motivation. Second, organizational behavior is concerned with group behavior, which includes norms, roles, team building, leadership, and conflict. Our knowledge about groups comes basically from the work of sociologists and social psychologists. And finally, organizational behavior also looks at organizational aspects including structure, culture, and human resource policies and practices. We have addressed group and organizational aspects in previous chapters, and in this chapter we're going to look at individual behavior. So the goals of organizational behavior are to explain, predict, and influence behavior. Managers need to be able to explain why employees engage in some behaviors rather than others. They need to be able to predict how employees will respond to various actions and decisions. And they need to influence how employees behave. So while employee behaviors are specifically concerned with explaining, predicting, and influencing, 6 important ones have been identified. Employee productivity being one of them. Absenteeism being another. Turnover being another. Organizational citizenship behavior being another. Job satisfaction. And workplace misbehavior. Employee productivity is a performance measure of both efficiency and effectiveness. Managers want to know what factors will influence the efficiency and effectiveness of employees. Absenteeism is the failure to show up to work for work, so no mystery on that one. And it's difficult for work to get done if employees don't show up, right? So turnover is the voluntary and involuntary permanent withdrawal from an organization. It can be a problem because of increased recruiting, selection, and training costs, and work disruptions. So again, just to recap the slide, employee productivity is a performance measure of both efficiency and effectiveness. Absenteeism is the failure to show up for work. And turnover, the voluntary and involuntary permanent withdrawal from an organization. Now, organizational citizenship behavior is discretionary behavior that's not part of an employee's formal job requirement, but promotes the effective functioning of the organization. Job satisfaction refers to an employee's general attitude toward his or her job. Although job satisfaction is an attitude rather than a behavior, it's an outcome that concerns many managers because satisfied employees are more likely to show up for work, have higher levels of performance, and stay with an organization. Counterproductive workplace behavior is any intentional employee behavior that is potentially harmful to the organization or individuals within the organization. Workplace misbehavior shows up in organizations in 4 different ways: deviance, aggression, antisocial behavior, and violence. Such behaviors can range from playing loud music to just irritate coworkers to verbal aggression and sabotaging work, all of which can create havoc in any organization. To recap the slide, organizational citizenship behavior is discretionary behavior that is not part of an employee's formal job requirement, but which promotes the effective functioning of the organization. Job satisfaction is an employee's general attitude towards his or her job, and counterproductive workplace behavior is any intentional employee behavior that is potentially damaging to the organization or to individuals within the organization. Attitudes are evaluative statements, favorable or unfavorable, concerning objects, people, or events. They reflect how an individual feels about something. When a person says, "I like my job," he or she is expressing an attitude about work. An attitude is made up of 3 components. First, cognition. Second, affect. And third, behavior. I'll leave that. Okay. The cognitive component of an attitude refers to the beliefs, opinions, knowledge, or information held by a person. For instance, the belief that discrimination is wrong, for example. The affective component of an attitude is the emotional or feeling part of an attitude. Using our example, this component would be reflected by the statement, "I don't like Pat because he discriminates against minorities." And finally, affect can lead to behavioral outcomes. The behavioral component of an attitude refers to an intention to behave in a certain way towards someone or something. Now, a person with a high level of job satisfaction has a positive attitude towards his or her job. A person who is dissatisfied has a negative attitude. When people speak of employee attitudes, they are usually referring to job satisfaction. So high levels of satisfaction equal positive attitudes. Dissatisfaction equals negative attitudes. Job satisfaction is linked to productivity, absenteeism, turnover, customer satisfaction, organizational citizenship behavior, and counterproductive behavior. Now, job involvement is the degree to which an employee identifies with his or her job, actively participates in it, and considers his or her job performance to be important to his or her self-worth. The employees with a high level of job involvement strongly identify with and really care about the kind of work they do. Their positive attitude leads them to contribute in positive ways to their work. Now, organizational commitment is the degree to which an employee identifies with a particular organization and its goals and wishes to maintain membership in that organization. Whereas job involvement is identifying with your job. Organizational commitment is identifying with your employee organization. Now, although the commitment of an employee to an organization may not be as important as it once was, research about perceived organizational support, employees general belief that their organization values their contributions and cares about their well-being. It shows that the commitment of the organization to the employee can be beneficial. High levels of perceived organizational support lead to increased job satisfaction and lower turnover rates. So the perceived organizational support is employees' general belief that their organization values their contribution and cares about their well-being. Now, managers want their employees to be connected to, satisfied with, and enthusiastic about their jobs. Now, this concept is known as employee engagement. Highly engaged employees are passionate about and deeply connected to their work. Disengaged employees have essentially checked out and don't care. They show up for work but have no energy or passion for it. So attitudes and consistency. People generally seek consistency among their attitudes and between their attitudes and behavior. They try to reconcile differing attitudes and align their attitudes and behavior so they appear rational and consistent. Cognitive dissonance theory sought to explain the relationship between attitudes and behavior. So cognitive dissonance is any incompatibility or inconsistency between attitudes or between behavior and attitudes. The theory argued that inconsistency is uncomfortable and that individuals will try to reduce the discomfort and thus the dissonance. Many organizations regularly survey their employees about their attitudes. Typically, attitude surveys present the employee with a set of statements or questions, eliciting how they feel about their jobs, work groups, supervisors, or the organization. Ideally, the items will be designed to obtain the specific information that managers desire. An attitude score is achieved by summing up responses to individual questionnaire items. These scores can be averaged for work groups, departments, divisions, or the organization as a whole. Now, Exhibit 15-2 shows an example of an actual attitude survey. So these are just some sample statements from an employee attitude survey. I have ample opportunities to use my skills, abilities in my job. And quantitative Findings may be strongly agree, strongly disagree, somewhat agree, surveys like that. So something that's quantifiable. Uh, my manager has a good relationship with my worker. My organization provides me professional development opportunities. I am told if I'm doing good work or not, and I feel safe in my environment. And my organization is a great place to work. All these questions are highly associated with attitudes. Now, satisfied and committed employees, for instance, have lower rates of turnover and absenteeism. If managers want to keep resignations and absences down, especially among their more productive employees, they'll want to do things that generate positive attitudes. So managers should be interested in their employees' attitudes because they influence behavior. An individual's personality is a unique combination of emotional, thought, and behavioral patterns that affect how a person reacts to situations and interacts with others. It's our natural way of doing things and relating to others. Personality is the most often described in terms of measurable traits a person exhibits. And we're interested in looking at personality because just like attitudes, it too affects how and why people behave the way they do. So one popular approach to classify personality traits is the personality assessment instrument known as the MBTI. And this is a 100 question assessment, and it asks people how they usually act or feel in different situations. And on the basis of their answers, individuals are classified as exhibiting a preference in 4 categories: extroversion or introversion, E or I, sensing or intuition, S or N, thinking or feeling, T or F, and judging or perceiving, J or P. So I know I've mentioned the Myers-Briggs earlier, and that's exactly what this is. It's the Myers-Briggs instrument. So combining these preferences provides descriptions of 16 personality types, with every person identified with one of the types in each of the 4 pairs. Now, Exhibit 15-3 here summarizes 2 of them. And as you can see from these descriptions, each personality type would approach work and relationships differently. Neither one better than the other, they're just different. So in recent years, research has shown that 5 basic personality dimensions underlie all others and encompass most of the significant variation in human personality. Now, the 5 personality traits in the Big 5 model are extroversion, which is the degree to which someone is social, talkative, assertive, and comfortable in relationships with others. And then you have the agreeableness, and that's the degree to which someone is good-natured, cooperative, and trusting. And then you have the conscientiousness, and that's the degree to which someone is reliable, responsible, dependable, persistent, and achievement-oriented. You have emotional stability, and that's the degree to which someone is calm, enthusiastic, and secure, or tense, nervous, depressed, and insecure. And you have openness to experience, and that is the degree to which someone has a wide range of interests, and is imaginative, fascinated with novelty, artistically sensitive, and intellectual. Now, some people believe they have control over their own fate. We covered this in a previous chapter. Others see themselves as pawns, believing that what happens to them in their lives is due to luck or chance. And the locus of control is the first case. And it's internal. These people believe they can control their own destiny. The locus of control in the second case is external, and that's these people believe that their lives are controlled by outside forces. Okay, so locus of control is a personality attribute that measures the degree to which people believe they can control their own fate. Now, another characteristic is called Machiavellianism. This is just known as Mach for short. Okay, I'm going to try this again. Machiavellianism. And it's you don't have to really repeat this one. You just have to know to read it because it's named after Niccolo Machiavelli, who wrote the 16th century on how to. In the 16th century, he wrote How to Gain and Manipulate Power. An individual high in Machiavellianism is pragmatic and maintains emotional distance and believes that ends can justify means. Okay. So just remember, it's a measure of the degree to which people are pragmatic. They maintain emotional distance and believe that ends justifies means. Now, people differ in the degree to which they like or dislike themselves. And a trait called self-esteem, research on self-esteem, offers some interesting behavioral insights. For example, self-esteem is directly related to expectations for success. And high self-esteem believe they possess the ability they need to succeed at work. Now, individuals with high self-esteem will take more risks in job selection and are more likely to choose unconventional jobs than people with low self-esteem. So, self-esteem is an individual's degree of like or dislike for him or herself. They have a natural ability to click with other people. They play a significant role in determining career success, and is another personality trait called self-monitoring, which refers to the ability to adjust behavior to external situational factors. Individuals high in self-monitoring show considerable adaptability in adjusting their behavior. Now, they're highly sensitive to external cues and can behave differently in different situations. So just remember, self-monitoring is a personality trait that measures the ability to adjust behavior to external situational factors. Another interesting trait that's been studied extensively is the proactive personality, which describes people who identify opportunities, show initiatives, take action, and persevere until meaningful change occurs. Not surprisingly, research has shown that proactives have many desirable behaviors that organizations want. And finally, the economic recession has prompted a re-examination of resilience, an individual's ability to overcome challenges and turn them into opportunities. And a recent study by a global consulting firm showed that it is a key factor in keeping a job. A resilient person is likely to be more adaptable, flexible, and goal-focused. So just remember, proactive personality is a personality trait that describes individuals who are more prone to take actions to influence their environments And resilience is an individual's ability to overcome challenges and turn them into opportunities. Now, national cultures differ in terms of degree to which people believe they control their environment. For instance, North Americans believe they can dominate their environment. Other societies, such as Middle Eastern countries, believe life is essentially predetermined. Now, notice how closely this distinction parallels the concept internal and external locus of control. Okay? So, on the basis of this particular cultural characteristic, we should expect a larger portion of internals in the U.S. and Canada workforces than in workforces in Saudi Arabia or Iran. Just remember, no personality type is common for a given country if a country's culture influences the dominant personality characteristics of its people. Now, how we respond emotionally and how we deal with our emotions are typically functions of our personality. Emotions are intense feelings directed at someone or something. They're object-specific. That is, emotions are reactions to an object. And one area of emotions research with interesting insights into personality is emotional intelligence, known as EI, the ability to notice and to manage emotional cues and information. Just remember, emotions, intense feelings that are directed at someone or something. Emotional intelligence is the ability to notice and to manage emotional cues and information. Emotional intelligence is a hot topic now in management and leadership. Heavily connected with human performance and productivity, being able to read people, know your personnel. Even the personalities play into this too. Just because somebody's exhibiting certain attributes doesn't mean that something's going on with them. That just could be the way they are. And if somebody's acting in contrary to their norm, then you need to pick it up. You need to be emotionally intelligent, and be able to identify what their problem is. Help them out. And increase their human capital. Their ability to perform. By righting the wrongs or strengthening the weaknesses, asking them what's wrong. Sometimes it's just a matter of talking to somebody. Now, emotional intelligence is composed of 5 dimensions. Self-awareness, and that's the ability to be aware of what you're feeling. Self-management, that's the ability to manage one's own emotions and impulses. And self-motivation, and that's the ability to persist in the face of setbacks and failures. Now, the last 2 dimensions of EI are empathy, and that's the ability to sense how others are feeling, and social skills, the ability to handle the emotions of others. Now, the best documented personality job theory was developed by psychologist John Holland, who identified 6 basic personality types. This theory states that an employee's satisfaction with his or her job, as well as his or her likelihood of leaving that job, depends on the degree to which the individual's personality matches the job environment. So managers are likely to have higher performing and more satisfied employees if consideration is given to matching the personalities with the job. Now, Exhibit 15-4 here describes the 6 types or personality characteristics and the examples of suitable occupations for each. So you have to realistic people. They prefer physical activities that require skill, strength, and coordination. Their personality characteristics: shy, genuine, persistent, stable, conforming, and practical. Sample occupations would be mechanic, drill press operator, assembly line worker, or a farmer. Next is investigative, prefers activities involving thinking, organizing, and understanding. Those personality characteristics associated with this is analytical, original, curious, and independent. Sample occupations would be biologist, economist, mathematician, news reporter. Next, you have social, prefers activities that involve helping and developing others. Personality characteristics associated with this type are social, friendly, cooperative, understanding. And sample occupations would be social worker, teacher, counselor, clinical psychologist. Next, you have the conventional, prefer rule-regulated, orderly, and unambiguous activities. They tend to be conforming, efficient, practical, unimaginative, and inflexible. You have accountants, corporate manager, bank teller, file clerk. And then you have enterprising, prefer verbal activities that offer opportunities to influence others and attain power. They tend to be self-confident, ambitious, energetic, and domineering. And sample occupations for this, one would be lawyer, real estate agent, public relations specialist, small business manager. Next is artistic, prefers ambiguous and unsystematic activities that allow creative expression. Then they tend to be imaginative, disorderly, idealistic, emotional, and practical. They could be painter, musician, writer, and interior decorator. So these are the 6 types of personality characteristics and examples of suitable occupations of each. So the best documented personality job theory was developed by John Holland, like I said, and perception plays a big part of that. When it comes down to identifying personalities, you want to be accurate. Okay, it's all about perceiving. Okay, what you perceive and being accurate in your perception. And knowing what perception is a big part of it. Now, perception is the process by which we give meaning to our environment by organizing and interpreting sensory impressions. So think about if you were to provide some type of an analysis on someone because they're exhibiting certain attributes, but maybe your perception was off. Okay, so having an understanding of perception and what it is highly important. And just know it's the process by which we give meaning to our environment by organizing and interpreting sensory impressions. Research on perception consistently demonstrates that individuals may look at the same thing yet perceive it differently. Now, one manager, for instance, can interpret the fact that her assistant regularly takes several days to make important decisions as evidence that the assistant is slow, disorganized, and afraid to make decisions, where another manager with the same assistant might interpret the same tendency as evidence that the assistant is thoughtful, thorough, and deliberate. Where one's looking at her or him or her like they're too slow. The other one's looking at it like they're more methodical. So the first manager would probably evaluate her assistant negatively. The second manager would probably evaluate the person positively. That's why I said it's perception. It's good to have a lot of awareness in this area. And the point is that none of us really see reality. We interpret what we see and call it reality. And of course, as the example shows, We behave according to our own perceptions. Factors that influence perception, a number of factors act to shape and sometimes distort perception, including the perceiver, target, and the situation. So the characteristics of the target being observed can also affect what's perceived. Loud people are more likely than quiet people to be noticed in a group, as are extremely attractive or unattractive individuals. The relationship of a target to its background also influences perception, as does our tendency to close things and similar things together. Now you can notice these tendencies by looking at the visual perception examples shown here in Exhibit 15-5. Notice how what you see changes as you look differently at each one. So is the first one an old woman or a young woman? So if you look at it in one frame to the left, the chin of a younger woman who's looking over her right shoulder would be the nose of the older woman who's wearing a veil. And then over here to the right, is it a knight or a horse? I'll leave it up for you to take a look. Now, the attribution theory was developed to explain how we judge people differently depending on what meaning we attribute to a given behavior. Basically, the theory suggests that when we observe an individual's behavior, we attempt to determine whether it was internally or externally caused. Now, internally caused behaviors are those believed to be under the personal control of the individual. Externally caused behavior results from outside factors. That is, the person is forced into the behavior by the situation. Now, that determination, however, depends on three factors, and they are distinctiveness, consensus, and consistency. And Exhibit 15-6 summarizes the key elements of the attribution theory. So one interesting finding from the attribution theory is that errors or biases distort our attributions. Now, for instance, substantial evidence supports the fact that when we make judgments about the behavior of other people, we have a tendency to underestimate the influence of external factors and to overestimate the influence of internal or personal factors. Now, this tendency is called the fundamental attribution error that can explain why a sales manager may attribute the poor performance of his or her sales representative to laziness rather than the innovative product line introduced by a competitor. And this tendency is called a self-serving bias and suggests that feedback provided to employees and performance reviews will be distorted by them depending on whether it is positive or negative. Okay. So the fundamental attribution error is the tendency to underestimate the influence of external factors and to overestimate the influence of internal or personal factors. And the self-serving bias is the tendency of individuals to attribute their successes to internal factors while blaming personal failures on external factors. Now, it's easy to judge others if we assume they're similar to us. And assume similarity, or the like-me effect, the observer's perception of others is influenced more by the observer's own characteristics than by the person observed. And when we judge someone on the basis of our perception of a group he or she is a part of, we're using the shortcut called stereotyping. For instance, married people are more stable employees than single people. And that's an example of stereotyping. So when we formulate these general impressions about a person on the basis of a single characteristic, such as intelligence, sociability, or appearance, we're influenced by the halo effect. Okay, so the assumed similarity is the assumption that others are like oneself. The stereotyping, judging a person based on a perception of a group to which that person belongs, and the halo effect is a general expression of an individual based on a single characteristic. So whether a manager's appraisal of an employee's performance is actually objective and unbiased, or whether the organization's wage levels are among the highest in the community, is less relevant than what employees perceive them to be. If individuals perceive appraisals to be biased or wage levels to be low, they'll behave as if those conditions actually exist. So managers need to recognize that their employees react to perceptions, not the reality. So whether a manager's appraisal of the employee's performance is actually objective, going back here for implications for managers. Now move on to learning. So managers need to recognize that their employees react to perceptions, not to reality. So operant conditioning argues that behavior is a function of its consequences. People learn to behave to get something they want or to avoid something they don't want. Operant behavior is voluntary or learned behavior, not reflective or reflexive or unlearned behavior. The tendency to repeat learned behavior is influenced by reinforcement or a lack of reinforcement that happens as a result of the behavior. Now, reinforcement strengthens a behavior and increases the likelihood that it will be repeated. The lack of reinforcement weakens a behavior and lessens the likelihood that it will be repeated. So remember, operant conditioning is a theory of learning that says behavior is a function of its consequences. Social learning. Much of what we have learned comes from watching others. People modeling behavior, parents, teachers, peers, television and movie actors, managers, and so forth. Now this view that we can learn both through observation and direct experience is called social learning theory. The influence of others is central to the social learning viewpoint. The amount of influence these models have on an individual is determined by 4 processes. So you have the attentional processes, and that's people learn from a model when they recognize and pay attention to its critical features. And we're most influenced by models who are attractive, repeatedly available, and what could be important or seen as similar to us. Then you have retention processes. And that's a model's influence will depend on how well the individual remembers the model's action, even after the model is no longer readily available. And then you have motor reproduction processes. And that's after a person has seen a new behavior by observing the model, the watching must become doing. This process demonstrates that the individual can actually do the modeled activities. And finally, you have the reinforcement processes. And that's individuals will be motivated to exhibit the model behavior if positive incentives or rewards are provided. Behaviors that are reinforced will be given more attention, learn better, and perform more often. Now, because learning takes place on the job as well as prior to it, managers are concerned with how they can teach employees to behave in ways that most benefit the organization. Thus, managers will often attempt to mold individuals by guiding their learning in graduated steps through a method called shaping behavior. Now, 4 ways to shape behavior include positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, punishment, and extinction. Now, when a behavior is followed by something pleasant, such as praising an employee for a job well done, it's called positive reinforcement. Now, positive reinforcement increases the likelihood that the desired behavior will be repeated. Now, rewarding a response by eliminating or withdrawing something unpleasant is negative reinforcement. Now, a manager who says, I won't dock your pay if you start getting the work done on time is using negative reinforcement. The desired behavior, getting the work done on time, is being encouraged by the withdrawal of something unpleasant. That's the employee's pay being docked. And on the other hand, punishment penalizes undesirable behavior and will eliminate it. Suspending an employee for 2 days without pay for habitually coming to work late is an example of punishment. And then finally, eliminating any reinforcement that's maintaining a behavior is called extinction. And that's when the behavior isn't reinforced, it gradually disappears. So if managers want behavior A, but reward behavior B, they shouldn't be surprised to find that employees learning to engage in behavior B. Okay? I'm going to say that again. If managers want behavior A, but reward behavior B, they shouldn't be surprised to find employees learning to engage in behavior B. Similarly, managers should expect that employees will look to them as models. That's why they're important and relevant terms such as lead by example or model of behavior. So, in review of our first learning objective, just like an iceberg, it's the hidden organizational elements being attitudes, perceptions, norms that make understanding individual behavior so challenging. Organizational behavior focuses on 3 areas: individual behavior, group behavior, and organizational aspects. The goals of organizational behavior are to explain, predict, and influence behavior. Employee productivity is a performance measure of both efficiency and effectiveness. Absenteeism is the failure to report to work. Turnover is the voluntary and involuntary permanent withdrawal from an organization. Also remember that organizational citizenship behavior is discretionary behavior that's not part of an employee's formal job requirement, but it promotes the effective functioning of an organization. Remember that job satisfaction is an individual's general attitude towards his or her job. And workplace misbehavior is any intentional employee behavior that is potentially harmful to the organization or individuals within the organization. In review of our second learning objective, the cognitive component refers to the beliefs, opinions, knowledge, and information held by a person. And the affective component is the emotional or feeling part of an attitude. The behavioral component refers to an intention to behave in a certain way towards someone or something. And then organizational commitment is the degree to which an employee identifies with a particular organization and its goals and wishes to maintain membership in that organization. Remember that employee engagement is when employees are connected to, satisfied with, and enthusiastic about their jobs. And then remember, job satisfaction positively influences productivity, lowers absenteeism levels, lowers turnover rates, promotes positive customer satisfaction, and moderately promotes organizational citizenship behavior. And it helps minimize the workplace misbehavior. Individuals try to reconcile attitude and behavior inconsistencies by altering their attitudes, altering their behavior, or rationalizing the inconsistency. So in review of our third learning objective, the MBTI measures 4 dimensions: social interaction, preference for gathering data, preference for decision making, and style of making decisions. Remember, the Big Five model consists of 5 personality traits: extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, emotional stability, and openness to experience. And the 5 personality traits that help explain an individual behavior in organizations are locus of control, Machiavellianism, hey, I said it, just know it as Mach, self-esteem, self-monitoring, and risk-taking. Other personality traits include type A, type B personalities, proactive personality, and resilience. And in review of our fourth learning objectives, perception is how we give meaning to our environment by organizing and interpreting sensory impressions. Because people behave according to their perceptions, managers need to understand it. Attribution theory depends on 3 factors. Distinctiveness is whether an individual displays different behaviors in different situations. So that is, the behavior is unusual, or is the behavior unusual. Consensus is whether others facing a similar situation respond in the same way. And then consistency is when a person engages in behaviors regularly or consistently. So whether these 3 factors are high or low helps managers determine whether an employee behavior is attributed to external or internal causes. And remember, the fundamental attribution error is the tendency to underestimate the influence of external factors and overestimate the influence of internal factors. Also, remember, the self-serving bias is the tendency to attribute our own success to internal factors and to put the blame for failure on external factors. So remember that 3 shortcuts used in judging others are assumed similarity, stereotyping, and the halo effect. So in review of our 5th and final learning objective, remember that operant conditioning argues that behavior is a function of its consequences. Managers can use it to explain, predict, and influence behavior. And remember that social learning theory says that individuals learn by observing what happens to other people and by directly experiencing something. Remember that managers can shape behavior by using positive reinforcement, that is reinforcing a desired behavior by giving something pleasant. They also can use negative reinforcement, that is reinforcing a desired response by withdrawing something unpleasant. And then remember that punishment is eliminating undesirable behavior by applying penalties. And finally, managers can shape behavior on extinction. And that's not reinforcing that behavior to eliminate it. So, thank you for your participation in the Chapter 15 lecture. Stay tuned for the Chapter 16 lecture. Until then, check Blackboard for the week's activities and assignments.